This video will be a quick overview of the Teacher Dashboard. Previous video showed you how to log in with Clever and to add students to a course using Clever. The first thing to do is to click on the course you'd like to enter. In this case, I'm choosing Test 1. Some things to note across the top is that your course name will show up here, the amount of time that the course will run for, and the filters in school. One thing to do is to come over and click Edit, and you can change the course name. And you can also change the number of minutes that that course will run for by default. When you hit save, it'll remember that for the next session as well. You can also create student groups. So if you like to group students into different filters, you can do so. We can create a new group or group one, and I can add a student to that particular group. This particular student's already in this group, and I can hit save changes. I can add a co-teacher so they could also view the screen. Just put in their School City of Mishawaka email address and hit add second teacher. You can also add students. I do not recommend using this method. All of your students should be synced with Clever. The next step is to hit start. You can come down to this blue button, click the start button, and you'll start to see your students pop up. You should have all of your students in your class across the screen here if they're all logged into their Chromebooks with their SEM email address. You can see this student is on and also on a YouTube page. If I were beginning my class and I wanted to block them from YouTube, I can just hover over this YouTube tab and I can add it to the block list. And then pretty instantaneously, they will get an access is denied button by coming up here and clicking the little down arrow and hitting delete on YouTube. And that student now has access back into YouTube. As I go across the top of my screen here, the heads up button is really great for when the entire class is in person. When we have part of the class in person and part joining via Google Meet, when you click this heads up button, it will close out all the tabs and say your teacher's asking for your attention. When you do that, it will close out their Google Meet and they'll be disconnected from your classroom. So stay away from there for virtual learning. The next button here, Share and Force. Share is going to be a great tool for you to get all of your students on the same page. So if you wanted them all to go to nd.edu, you could hit add and share that page, and it'll open up a new tab, and you can see all my class would be added to this University of Notre Dame webpage and directed directly there. Once again, hitting enforce will force all students to that page and close up any of the other tabs on there. Which is, once again, a great tool for when you're in person, but not so great when you are having a Google Meet, which would close that Google Meet. You can send your students in the entire class a message. You can send it to an entire class or to a group, hit send, and that will show up on the student's screen. You can begin an assessment. There are several different assessment windows. This will, once again, close out a Google Meet. But when you're doing an assessment, you may not want them all on a Google Meet to avoid that distraction. You can do a web app. You can see iReady is here. You can lock them into a specific Khan Academy page, Edpuzzle, Canvas, or some of the ones that you may be familiar with. And you can also do an assessment here where you have a Quizlet or a Kahoot or Google Form, or you see Canvas here. There really isn't much difference between those assessments and web apps. But when you hit confirm, it'll lock them into those. You can share your screen to the entire class, and that will push that screen out to their student. Now I'm doing a demonstration to my class. I can then stop that screen, and it takes them back to their page. The next buttons that may be of interest are the screenshot. So if you have a student that you'd like to grab a screenshot of, you can do that. It'll save that student screenshot and download it onto your page, onto your computer. This is where you can do a share and enforce tab for a specific student instead of the whole class. You send that specific student a message. You can give a heads up to that specific student or an assessment to that specific student. This next one will be share a student stream to everybody. So if this student were doing a class demonstration, you can hit this share student stream to all. Once this comes up, the student will be asked to share their entire screen. Or click on their screen and click the share button. Once the student does that, the screen sharing will be initialized, and you'll be able to see the student's screen and actually be able to see as they move around the class. Will be shared to the entire group of students. To stop that, you're just going to come up and click the Stop Sharing Student Stream. You can also do this so just you can see that student stream by hitting that play button. And the same thing will happen where the student is requested to share their screen with you. At the end of your class, you'll come over and click this blue stop button, and your next class will be able to begin. Click on the Blocksi Teacher Dashboard and select your next class to start the next class.